Book 1, Chapter 11, Autumn 2014, St. Andrews, Scotland. Zari. On the morning of her appointment to see the only Cornelia Vanderzee portrait in Scotland, Zari was hunched at her desk, organizing her teaching notes for the week, when a thin man with a swirl of white hair appeared through the glass wall in the corridor, flapping his arms and striding vigorously back and forth. He wore a pair of red polyester slacks, a white shirt with lapels that reached halfway down his chest, and a cream-colored cable-knit cardigan. After his third pass, during which Zari got a glimpse of his patent leather zip-up ankle boots, Aggie popped her head around the edge of the door frame. "Oh, Zari, you've got that deer-in-the-headlights look about you." "Just trying to make sense of things," Zari said cautiously, her eyes on the man in the corridor. Aggie lowered her voice to an exaggerated whisper. "That's Professor Emeritus Richard Crone, just back from Italy. He splits his time between Scotland and Sicily." "I know. I met him at a faculty meeting yesterday. Did you know he wrote 2 books on Western art 40 years ago?" Zari shook her head, watching him flap by again. "You probably used them in an Art History 101 course in your early days at university," Aggie added. "But what is he doing? The arms, you mean? He does it to keep his circulation up. A healthy habit, he calls it." They watched him bustle down the corridor, jabbing the air with his fingertips, dressed like an extra from the set of a circa 1978 B movie. "A researcher in my graduate program in California used to water the office plants with his urine and then got offended when we asked him to stop." Zari pushed her chair back. "He thought he was performing a public service, infusing the sun-starved plants with life-sustaining chemicals like sodium and potassium. It was our intolerance, not his pee, that was the problem." They watched Richard Crone march back to his office, chest puffed out like a peacock's. His flared slacks rubbed together with each step, emitting a gentle rhythmic swish that trailed him down the corridor. "He and the plants," Aggie said. "I'm fairly confident that would not be allowed here. Richard is distracting, but he's not disgusting. Richard is quiet, entertaining, and wears sustainably sourced clothing. Let him flap away to his heart's content, I say." Zari stood and pulled on her long down coat, rummaging in the pockets for her gloves and hat. Aggie surveyed her, nodding in approval. "You ditched the hoodie and the puffy vest. For a Californian, you're dressed properly." "If I play my cards right today, I might be allowed to study the portrait longer than the 30 minutes I've been promised. I've got to make a good impression." "Private collections," said Aggie. "I feel your pain." "I had to make a real pest of myself to get the owner to agree to this visit." "I don't doubt it. You Yanks are so pushy." "I didn't pull out the pushy card," Zari protested. "I resorted to bribery instead." "Oh? I found out she likes Oregon Pinot Noir, and I found a purveyor of said wine in St. Andrews." Zari hefted her messenger bag. "There's liquid gold in here." Aggie laughed. "Brilliant. When you get back tonight, let's open a bottle of liquid gold ourselves and do something about your room. You take the concept of living out of a suitcase a bit too literally." Zari grinned. "Think of it as the minimalist look." The wind bit into Zari's face, so cold and damp it felt as if it had been skimmed off the surface of the North Sea. The sky was molten lead. Tattered leaves hung from the branches of the street trees. Some of the streets in St. Andrews had no trees at all, and she was still not used to the monotonous gray of cobblestone streets flanked by stone buildings with no layer of green to soften them. Only now was she beginning to appreciate the redwoods, oaks, manzanitas, bays, and eucalyptuses that bore silent witness to her life in California. How lucky she had been to grow up sheltered by such an extravagance of trees. When she entered the bus station, a fine spray of rain had begun to fall. Zari's mobile buzzed. She fumbled for it in a pocket. "Zari, my love!" It was her mother. "Mom, I was just thinking how grateful I am for trees and home. I miss you." "Sweetie, Scotland is known for its treelessness. I could have told you that." Zari felt a surge of annoyance. It was a huge achievement to have landed this fellowship, yet her mother could not get past the fact that it was so far away. The actual details of Zari's work didn't seem to interest her as much as the logistics of her daughter's life. "What are you up to?" her mother asked. "I'm off to see the lone Cornelia Vanderzee painting in this treeless land." How's Aggie?" "Great. Did you give her the necklace?" Zari's mother had made Aggie a long silver chain strung with a cluster of blue crystal beads. "She loves it." "Did you tell her about the energetic properties of the crystals?" Yes," Zari lied. She knew that the farther away she got from California, the more likely she would be to encounter outright mockery and disdain of her mother's world. "Honey, I have a few minutes before Obsidian picks me up, and I wanted to check in." "Obsidian?" Zari asked. "Yep, the guy I met at the silent meditation retreat this summer. He lives in Montana. He's in town for a few days." "What's his real name?" "Who knows? He thinks my real name is Portia." "Your real name is Portia." "It hasn't always been, though." "Mom, you changed it a lifetime ago. You haven't been Patricia since you were a kid." "Anyway, he's a photographer. So much fun. And hot. I forgot how much energy younger men have." I don't need to hear the gory details," Zari said, wincing. "Wait a second. How do you discover someone is fun and hot at a silent meditation retreat?" "Obviously, you've never been to one," Portia said testily. "Wise ass." "Sorry." Zari rifled through a mental list of her mother's various freelance ventures. "How's the pet-sitting business, Mom?" "Fine, with the usual exception of Taffy. It should be illegal to spend that much money on a dog. He eats salmon I could never afford. And I now have to wear him in a baby sling on walks because he has issues around other dogs ever since the neighbor's chow bit his ear through the fence. How that even happened is beyond me. Luckily, it wasn't on my watch." "How's Gus?" Zari asked. "That's the reason I'm calling." A worried note crept into her mother's voice. "Will you check in with your brother? He's got a hamstring injury, so he can't exercise. Jenny's been traveling a lot, and the kids are driving him nuts. He's being stoic, but I know better." "No exercise? That's not good." Zari felt a seam of anxiety open up in her stomach. She took a deep breath, her eyes tracking the approach of a bus. "My ride's here. Don't worry, Mom. I'll call him tonight."